Hello, my name's Graham Gunn. I'm nursery manager of Kevock Garden Plants just outside Edinburgh. We specialise in rare plants from all around the world, mainly specialising in alpine, bog and woodland plants. And today we're just going to be having a little walk around and look at a few of the plants that we would be taking to the shows and how to grow them in the situations that they'd need in your own gardens. And here we are in one of our show tunnels. This is where we grow a lot of our alpines in the traditional sense. All of these need a lot of full sun and lots of drainage really to be able to thrive, almost up to 50% grit in the soil in most cases. In this tunnel in particular, we've got the sempervivums and saxifrages. So we start with this one here. This one is Saxifrage nicholas. This is a very nice form. It's a really tall flower and it flowers for a good 2 to 3 weeks. Saxifrage in Latin means rock breaker, so that's exactly what these plants do. They grow in the rock crevices of mountains, and as they grow, the roots expand and create their new areas for their roots to sort of get into. You wouldn't think it, but even in those, they haven't got much soil, but in those rock crevices, the rocks are very, very nutrient rich. So that's where they get a lot of their nutrients from. And you can also see some of the deposits on the leaves as well with the tiny little white dots around the outlines. That's actually lime deposits on the leaves. If you haven't got the space for some of the tall saxifrages, we can use some of the more shorter and dwarf forms. This one is Ailsa Ruth. Again, this is a very floriferous form. So even though you haven't got the huge flower spike coming out, you've got a lot more, almost up to 15 on this plant. And again, the key thing with the saxifrages in particular is grit. So lots and lots in the planting hole. Staying in Europe, we move through to the blue gentians, which I'm sure a lot of you recollect from walks in the Alps. Again, these need lots and lots of grit in the soil, but really thrive in full sun. So as well as alpines in the traditional sense of full sun and lots of drainage, if you expand that range to actually what alpine means, it just means from a mountain range, and there's lots of arguments about what that includes. But I think the important thing to remember is that alpines can also be suitable for a shady type environment. And when we're at the shows, keeping along the blue theme, one of our most asked questions is always, what is this blue flower? And we've had so many different guesses of what it is and all sorts of things like that, but it's actually a mecanopsis. So these really grow high up in the mountains, almost at cloud level in the Himalayas. And they are used to lots and lots of moisture. So whether that's the moisture from rain in the monsoons or the clouds drifting in around them, they really, really love water. So the key thing to remember when planting them is to keep the soil damp and moist and holding that moisture, and also to keep them in a nice damp environment, somewhere where the wind's not going to batter them and dry them out. The other thing to remember is then when you get to the winter time, in their native environment, in the natural environment, they would actually be under 2 to 3 feet of snow. So that is actually very dry underneath there, and it's important to make sure they don't get too much winter wet. So just a little cloche or something like that, or raise them when you plant them just to keep them out of that moisture. And also keeping along the blue theme, we have Corydalis or Corydalis. I don't think they've really decided how to pronounce them yet. And these come in a very wide range of blue colours as well, and different foliage. They can flower for a very, very long time, and if you give them the Chelsea chop, you may well get 2 flowerings in the same season. And they also have the most amazing fragrance as well. And the other plant that makes up most of our woodland and shady alpine displays are Primulas. Now, as well as the sort of cowslips and Primulas, the native ones, we've also got Dodecatheons. Now, although botanically, the botanists always argue, but these are actually Primulas, they're still very widely known as Dodecatheons. And these, again, just like the damp moisture, the main thing to remember is not too much sun and not to dry out. For those areas of the garden that are a little bit damper, there's also a small selection of plants here. We've got the Primulas. They don't like it too wet, but they can tolerate quite a bit of damp. This one's Primula chungensis. We've got the Trollius, the globe flower, which is also the British native. And we've also got this rheum here. And as well as this looking like the flower, these are actually bracts with the flowers deep inside so that the insects can get in there where it's nice and warm and they can pollinate the flowers. So as you can see, a lot of these planting combinations work so well together. That's led a number of you to ask to help with planting combinations for your own gardens. And here is an example of one. We're a small not-for-profit company and we're aiming to make the plants we love more widely known and available to you. We're also aiming to create opportunities here in the workplace so that people who've experienced some sort of disadvantage can become an integral part of the team here, working alongside skilled horticulturalists. The shows are obviously the highlight of our year and being able to share some of the beautiful plants with you. Although we can't be there this year, we're still offering a mail order service so you can get our plants online.